You're surrounded by people. Maybe you were just laughing at something. Maybe your phone has notifications. Maybe tonight you have plans. And yet, there's this quiet ache right in the center of your chest. Not sadness exactly, not depression, just a strange emptiness that doesn't make sense given how full your life looks from the outside. You don't say anything about it. Because how do you explain that you feel alone when you're technically not? That feeling has a name, and you're not broken for having it. Here's what no one tells you about loneliness. It doesn't always look like an empty room or a Friday night spent alone. Sometimes it looks like a group chat you stopped opening, a conversation you had where you said all the right things but felt nothing, a hug that somehow made you feel more distant than before. That's the kind of loneliness we need to talk about. The invisible kind, the kind that lives inside people who look perfectly fine. And if you've ever felt that, this video might be the most honest mirror you've looked into in a long time. The first sign is that you perform being okay, not fake exactly. More like you've gotten very good at giving people the version of you they can handle. You laugh at the right moments. You say, "I'm good" on autopilot. You make others feel comfortable, seen, heard. And then you go home and realize nobody actually asked how you were. Not really. Psychologists call this emotional masking. It's when the gap between your internal experience and your external expression becomes so wide, so practiced, that even you start losing track of which one is real. The tragedy isn't that people don't care. It's that you've made yourself so easy to be around that nobody ever thinks to dig deeper. The second sign is that you feel more alone in a crowd than by yourself. There's a moment that probably sounds familiar. You're at a party, or a family dinner, or just in a room full of people talking. And instead of feeling connected, you feel this invisible glass wall between you and everyone else. You can see them, you can hear them, but you are not with them. This is what researchers call social loneliness versus existential loneliness. Social loneliness is about quantity, not having enough people. Existential loneliness is about depth, not being truly known by the people you have. You might have 100 people in your life and still live in existential loneliness, because what you're hungry for isn't company. It's contact, real contact. The kind where someone sees the actual you, not the curated, manageable version. The third sign is that small moments of kindness hit you harder than they should. Someone remembers your coffee order. A stranger holds the elevator. A friend texts you something that shows they were thinking of you, and your eyes sting a little. You feel almost embarrassed by how much it means. That's not sensitivity. That's starvation. When we go long enough without genuine human warmth, our nervous system becomes acutely sensitive to even the smallest dose of it. It's the same reason a single kind word can undo someone's entire composure. They weren't waiting for that one word. They were waiting for any word, for proof that they matter to someone. If you cried at something you felt was too small to cry about, you weren't being dramatic. You were being honest. The fourth sign is that you feel a disconnect from your own life, like you're watching it from a slight distance. You go through the days. You do the things. But there's this quiet dissociation, like you're observing your own existence rather than living it. Meals you barely tasted, weeks that blurred, conversations you were physically present for, but mentally miles away. This is what happens when your inner world has no outlet, when there's no one to reflect your experience back to you. The self starts to feel unreal. Identity, neuroscientists tell us, is partly social. We understand who we are through our connections to others. When those connections are surface level, our sense of self starts to feel thin. You're not losing your mind, you're losing your witness, the person who sees you. And without that, even you start to lose the thread of yourself. The fifth sign is that you crave depth but keep ending up in shallow water. You try. You genuinely try. You go out, you meet people, you have conversations. But somewhere between the small talk and the surface level laughter, you feel that familiar deflation, like you were hoping to dive and found out it was only knee-deep. You're not antisocial. You're not too picky. You're someone whose emotional frequency operates at a depth that most casual conversation simply cannot reach. John Casocapo, one of the world's leading researchers on loneliness, found that chronically lonely people don't lack social skills. In fact, many of them are remarkably warm and perceptive. What they lack is the environment where those qualities are met, where someone matches their depth instead of being intimidated by it. You are not too much. You are in the wrong rooms. The sixth sign is the hardest one to admit. You've started to prefer the idea of connection over the reality of it. Maybe you find yourself more moved by a song, a film, a book, than by an actual conversation. Maybe you feel closer to a fictional character than to people you've known for years. Maybe solitude has become so familiar that real intimacy now feels slightly threatening. This isn't preference, this is protection. At some point, the disappointment of not being truly seen became so common that your mind made a quiet deal. Stay in the imagination, where connection is safe, where no one can fall short, where you can't be left alone in a room full of people again. It's a brilliant adaptation, and a heartbreaking one. Here's what I want you to hold on to. Loneliness, especially this kind, the hidden high-functioning kind, is not a character flaw. It is not proof that you are difficult or broken or too deep for this world. It is, if you look at it clearly, evidence of something extraordinary. You are someone who feels things fully, who craves realness in a world that rewards performance, who would rather sit in honest silence than in comfortable noise. That is rare. And it will feel like a burden until you find the people who experience it as a gift. The ancient Greeks had a word, aletheia, meaning the uncovering of what is hidden, a return to truth. Maybe that's what this feeling is, quietly, beneath all the ache. A call back to yourself, a refusal to keep pretending that shallow is enough. You don't need more people. You need more truth. More moments where you don't have to translate yourself, where you can be exactly as complicated and quiet and full as you actually are. That kind of connection exists. It starts, almost always, with the courage to stop performing, and perhaps, with finally being honest about the fact that you've been a little lonely for a while now. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of something real.